Heisman Trophy, $30 million contract. Dream wife. Dream life. Travis Hunter had everything until 2 games into the NFL, when it all started to fall apart. What happens when the most gifted player of his generation tries to do the impossible? Travis Hunter isn't just battling defenders, he's battling a brutal NFL truth. In college, Travis Hunter could do it all. But the NFL is different. Will he focus and become a star, or try to do everything and risk becoming a cautionary tale? Travis Hunter walked into 2025 with the world at his feet. He had just won the Heisman Trophy, went number 2 overall in the NFL draft, and pocketed a massive $30 million signing bonus. Off the field, life looked even brighter. He married Lee Ellen Lay, the love of his life, and soon after, the couple learned they were expecting their first child. By the time the season kicked off, Hunter wasn't just a professional athlete. He was a husband, a father, a homeowner, and one of the NFL's most talked about young stars. It sounded like the perfect story. But the reality? Much tougher. Jacksonville drafted him to be a game changer, but instead, he's looked like a player trying to do too much. Hunter's unique appeal was that he played both wide receiver and cornerback. The problem is, through 2 games, the results haven't matched the hype. On offense, he's managed only 9 catches for 55 yards, barely over 6 yards per reception. On defense, he hasn't stood out either. That's why critics are questioning the Jaguars' decision to trade up for him. Analysts like Chris Sims are blunt. No one spends the number 2 pick for just okay. The Jaguars could have drafted a quarterback and a wide receiver in back-to-back rounds. Instead, they gambled on a two-way player who hasn't proven he can handle the workload. But to be fair, the blame might not fall entirely on Travis Hunter. Yes, the numbers are weak, and yes, fans expected fireworks from the number 2 overall pick. But if you peel back the layers, there's something bigger going on here. Steve Smith, the former NFL wide receiver who knows exactly what it takes to survive in this league, explained it perfectly. Smith's breakdown wasn't about stats or highlight reels, it was about the grind. He reminded people that the NFL isn't just about talent. Everyone has talent. What separates a Pro Bowler from a role player is the preparation, the mental load, and the endless hours of drilling the smallest details until they become second nature. Think about the offensive side of the ball for a moment. Every week, players sit in long meetings where coaches go over the philosophy for that game. It's not just, here's the playbook, now go execute. They start with run schemes, who's blocking who, how the offensive line will adjust to blitz packages, what the tight ends need to do in double teams, and how the receivers fit into the bigger picture. Even wide receivers, who might think of themselves as route runners first, are expected to understand their role in the blocking game. You can't just stand around when the ball isn't coming your way. Every player is part of the puzzle. After hours of this team-wide discussion, the offensive line heads out, the tight ends go their way, and the receivers finally get to zero in on the passing game. This is where the position coach steps in. The film rolls. Every angle of the opposing defense is dissected. This week, their corner is quicker than the guy we saw last week. Here's how he flips his hips. Here's how their safety disguises coverages. Here's how we need to adjust our routes. It's exhausting work. The kind of detail most fans never think about while they're watching a 3-hour game on Sunday. And on the defensive side, the same process happens. Defensive coordinators break down offensive tendencies. They explain how a certain quarterback stares down his first read, or how a particular offensive coordinator likes to run screens on 3rd and long. Then the defense splits into smaller groups. Linebackers study their responsibilities, corners and safeties focus on route combinations and how to disguise coverages. Every position has its own language, its own set of rules to memorize and apply. Now imagine trying to live in both worlds at the same time. That's Travis Hunter's reality. When Steve Smith played, he admitted he'd get to the facility at 7 in the morning and wouldn't leave until after 10 at night. Between workouts, team meetings, film sessions, and treatment, there wasn't a spare moment. And that was for one position, one role, one set of responsibilities. Hunter is trying to double that workload, and it shows. This is why his routes don't look sharp. It's why he seems a step behind on defense. It's not about effort or heart. It's about bandwidth. There are only so many hours in the day, and in the NFL, preparation is everything. If you're not fully locked in on one role, the guy across from you, who has been locked in, will expose you. Fans sometimes forget just how razor-thin the margin for error is in the NFL. In college, Hunter could get away with raw athleticism. His speed, his instincts, his natural feel for the game were enough to dominate. But at this level, everyone is fast, everyone is strong, and everyone has been studying the film. The smallest mistake, a wrong angle, a sloppy break in a route, a missed read in coverage, becomes the difference between a first down and a turnover. Smith's analysis adds perspective. Instead of labeling Hunter a bust 2 games into his career, it reminds us how steep the learning curve really is. Playing one position in the NFL is already a full-time job. Playing 2? That's nearly impossible in the long run. And this isn't just about Hunter. It's a broader lesson that applies far beyond football. Success, whether in sports, business, or life, often comes down to focus. If you stretch yourself too thin, you risk being average at everything instead of great at one thing. Warren Buffett doesn't try to be a real estate mogul and a tech founder at the same time. He sticks to what he knows best, buying businesses. That focus turned him into one of the richest men alive. For Hunter, the challenge is choosing his lane. Should he fully commit to wide receiver, where his explosiveness and big playability can shine? Or should he pour everything into cornerback, where his athleticism could make him a lockdown defender? Either path could work. But trying to juggle both may stunt his growth in the critical early years of his career. That's why Smith's insight resonates. He's not criticizing Hunter's talent, he's pointing out the reality of the NFL grind. It's a league built on preparation, detail, and endless study. If Hunter narrows his focus, he still has the tools to become special. But if he continues trying to be Superman, the league will keep reminding him that even the most gifted athletes can't do it all. And honestly, there's no shame in that. Now imagine doing both. When Smith played, he was at the facility from 7 a.m. to 10:30 p.m., studying, lifting, learning. And that was just for one position. Hunter is splitting his focus between offense and defense, doubling the workload, and it's showing on the field. Instead of being sharp at one role, he's spread thin across 2. That's why some insiders believe Hunter needs to pick a lane. His athleticism is undeniable. His passion for the game is obvious. But the NFL isn't college, it's too detailed, too demanding, to play Superman every Sunday. The real question now, will Travis Hunter settle into one position and thrive, or keep stretching himself thin and risk becoming a cautionary tale of wasted potential? The NFL is the top of the food chain. Every guy on that field was the best player at his position in college. That's why Travis Hunter's situation is so tricky. He's trying to play both sides of the ball, but opponents are starting to use that against him. Take the Jaguars' matchup against the Bengals as an example. Jacksonville had the upper hand for most of that game. Momentum was on their side. But then came a critical 4th down. Travis Hunter was in at nickel, tasked with holding down his side of the field. Instead of sticking to his assignment and protecting his zone, he panicked. He followed the receiver too closely, reached out, and drew a pass interference flag. The penalty gave the Bengals a fresh set of downs, shifted momentum, and from that point forward, the Jaguars never fully recovered. One mistake doesn't define a career, but it can decide a game. And for Hunter, it wasn't just about that one play, it was a window into a deeper issue. The truth is, Hunter doesn't have enough time in the week to truly master the defensive playbook. It's not that he doesn't care or doesn't study. It's that his time is being split between 2 entire worlds, offense and defense. Both require hours of preparation, endless reps, and a level of detail that even seasoned veterans struggle with. Trying to split that focus is like studying for 2 finals on the same day. No matter how smart you are, something's going to slip. That play against the Bengals showed exactly that. Nickel defense isn't just about sticking to a man, it's about understanding leverage, spacing, and how your assignment fits into the bigger scheme. Veteran nickelbacks spend years mastering those nuances. Hunter, on the other hand, is trying to learn them on the fly, while also memorizing offensive routes, timing with the quarterback, and techniques to beat press coverage as a wide receiver. It's too much, too fast. The frustrating part is that the talent is there. Nobody questions Hunter's athleticism. His speed, instincts, and versatility made him a legend in college. But the NFL is a different animal. At Colorado, quarterbacks often avoided his side of the field entirely. In the pros, it's the opposite. They're actively targeting him. Opposing coordinators see a young player stretched thin, and they exploit it. That's what happened on that 4th down. The Bengals trusted that if they threw it Hunter's way, they'd either get a completion or draw a penalty. They were right. And this is where preparation separates the greats from the gifted. Every week in the NFL is a chess match. Defensive coordinators spend hours breaking down the tendencies of their opponents, how a quarterback reacts to pressure, which receivers struggle against zone coverage, where the offensive line is weakest. Then, those concepts are drilled over and over in practice until they're second nature. That's how defenses succeed, not through raw talent alone, but through sharp execution of carefully crafted game plans. Hunter, though, isn't getting enough of that defensive education. His schedule is divided between wide receiver meetings and defensive back meetings, between offensive drills and defensive drills. Instead of sharpening one blade, he's trying to keep two dull ones from rusting. And in the NFL, being pretty good at two things isn't enough. You need to be excellent at one. Critics have been quick to point out his lackluster stats, just a handful of receptions for minimal yardage on offense and shaky moments on defense. But those numbers are symptoms, not the disease. The real problem is that he's being asked to carry a load that no rookie, no matter how talented, should be carrying. The Jaguars traded up to draft him high, invested millions, and immediately gave him 2 full-time jobs. That's not development, that's overextension. This isn't to say Hunter can't succeed. In fact, the situation highlights a crucial life lesson. Focus is power. When you try to juggle everything, you spread yourself thin. Eventually, someone who's locked in on one thing will pass you. That's true in football, and it's true outside of it. The Bengals weren't just better that night, they were sharper, more focused, and more prepared in the small details. Hunter's path forward is clear. He has to choose a lane. Wide receiver might be his best shot, his explosiveness, his ability to stretch the field, and his knack for making plays in space all point toward offensive stardom. If he committed fully to that craft, there's no telling how far he could go. Cornerback could still be in his back pocket, something to deploy situationally, but trying to live both lives full-time is setting him up for failure. And it's worth remembering, none of this makes him a bust or even a disappointment. This is what growth looks like in the NFL. For the first time in his career, Hunter isn't the most dominant player on the field. He's being tested. And sometimes, being tested doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're learning. That pass interference call wasn't just a mistake. It was a way-up call. It showed Hunter, the Jaguars, and everyone watching that raw talent alone won't cut it in the NFL. Focus, preparation, and mastery of the small details are what win games. If Hunter can accept that, simplify his role, and lock in, he still has the chance to become everything people hoped he would be. But if he keeps trying to be Superman, the league will keep reminding him that even the strongest shoulders can't carry it all. The numbers tell the same story. At wide receiver, Travis Hunter's production has been underwhelming. At cornerback, it hasn't looked much better. His stats don't jump off the page, and the film reveals the same thing. His routes lack sharpness, his breaks aren't explosive, and his footwork doesn't look as polished as it should. None of this is because he lacks talent. Hunter has talent in abundance. The issue is repetition. He isn't spending enough time perfecting one craft, and in the NFL, repetition is everything. That's the hard truth about professional football. Being a two-way player might sound exciting on paper, but in reality, it divides your focus. Every other player in the league is spending their entire week preparing for one role. Receivers spend countless hours running the same routes, adjusting to different coverages, and building chemistry with their quarterbacks. Cornerbacks spend those same hours studying offensive tendencies, learning how to read route combinations, and working on their reaction time. By trying to do both, Hunter is essentially competing against specialists with half the preparation time. That's not a fair fight, no matter how gifted he is. Most analysts agree that if Hunter wants to reach his full potential, he has to choose a lane, and wide receiver looks like the best fit. His athleticism, speed, and playmaking ability are more naturally suited to the offensive side of the ball. He has the raw tools to become a game changer, someone who can stretch defenses and create mismatches. But those tools need to be refined. Route running is an art, and mastering it requires endless repetition against top-tier defensive backs. If Hunter dedicated himself fully to that craft, there's no doubt he could grow into an elite wideout. That doesn't mean he has to abandon defense forever. In certain situations, maybe a trick package or a short-term injury crisis, he could still line up at cornerback and use his instincts to contribute. But being a full-time two-way player in the NFL? That experiment is hurting him more than it's helping. Instead of excelling at one position, he's stuck in the middle, performing below expectations at both. And that's the danger here. The NFL is too competitive for average. Teams didn't draft him second overall and pay him tens of millions for mediocrity. They wanted a difference maker. But difference makers aren't born overnight. They're built through focus, discipline, and hours of mastering the smallest details. Hunter's story is a reminder that even extraordinary talent needs direction. You can't be great at everything, at least not at this level. Choosing one path doesn't make him less versatile, it makes him more effective. If he simplifies his role, locks in, and develops mastery at wide receiver, he has a chance to become the star everyone believed he could be. This is bigger than football. In life, we all hit a point where we realize we can't do everything, no matter how big our ego is. At Colorado, Hunter could get away with it. He was the best athlete on the field, and schemes weren't as complex. But the NFL is different. Everyone is elite, everyone studies, and nobody is afraid to attack your weaknesses. In college, teams avoided him. In the pros, they're targeting him. On top of that, he's adjusting to a new city, new teammates, a $30 million contract, marriage, and fatherhood all at once. That's a lot of pressure. And when you're not dominating like before, it can chip away at your confidence. But that doesn't mean you're untalented or a bust. Plenty of high draft picks never become superstars. Sometimes it's coaching changes, bad luck, or injuries that derail a career. Success in the NFL depends on more than raw skill. It depends on fit, timing, and focus. For Hunter, this is his wake-up call. The lesson? Even the most gifted athletes can't do everything at the highest level. And that's okay. Everybody needs help in life. Sometimes the smartest move isn't to add more to your plate, but to take something off. Drop a few distractions. Organize your priorities. Lock in on one thing, master it, and then once you've built that foundation, you can branch out. If you try to juggle everything at once, you'll always lose ground to the person who's laser-focused on one skill. Think about Warren Buffett. For decades, he didn't chase real estate or jump into tech just because it was hot. He focused on what he knew: stocks and buying businesses. That single focus made him one of the most successful investors in history. Now, bring it back to Travis Hunter. Yes, he understands both receiver and cornerback. But understanding at the college level isn't the same as mastering it at the NFL level. In this league, you're facing quarterbacks with rocket arms, coordinators who spend all week scheming to expose your weaknesses, and coaches who've been studying the game for decades. It's chess, not checkers. And sometimes, no matter how talented you are, you can't do it all. That doesn't make you a failure, it just means the league is that demanding. So the big question is, will Travis simplify, pick a lane, and dominate? Or keep spreading himself thin and let the game humble him? It's your boy O Jackson, back again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. Thanks for rocking with me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We out.